Welcome to WWB Worldwide Broadcast. This is episode 10, and today, as you guys all know, we got a really special guest, Tommy. He's one of the creators of Ward. Yeah, if you stayed until the very end of the last episode, you got the little sneak peek to know. But we're all pretty excited to talk to Tommy. I'm sure he's got a lot to share, a lot of knowledge that we might not have, and so we're definitely gonna pick his brain a little bit, see what exactly we have in store and what he is willing to share with us as part of being, one of the devs. Obviously, me and Tyler, we started in Ward during when the Undead Invasion was released, the second gen. So
yeah, it was like the end of August, beginning of September.
Yeah, so we came in a little bit, I would say, like halfway so far through like the life of Ward. So obviously, Tommy, you were there from the beginning. One of my questions, again, not that I want to. So. Yeah, one of my questions that I want to know is when you guys were making the game, what was who was the best at Ward, I guess, when you guys first designed it? It might not be a very serious question, but I'm very curious. Yeah. When it came down to it, who was winning the Ward games before Ward was really even a thing?
So before Ward was Ward, kind of the first time we ever played it up at our cabin, it was actually my cousin John. So we all kind of built our decks out of that first set of just completely custom, IP ripped off art, everything, right? Every card was a mythic, top 3 legendary card. You pick your best 3 cards. Now make every single card within the entire game of Ward those cards. It was an absolute wild mess. There were broken things nonstop. But John got a card, and it's definitely not Deathwing from WoW, but and it was when this card is on the field, it can't die, it can't be damaged, it can't leave, and it's okay. So every time we got on the field, I'm like, well, I guess we'll just end this game.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to play? So we played an entire weekend like that, and John just absolutely killed everybody. We all had overpowered cards, but that card was just the next level broken. So, but I would say John was the first best player at Ward and won the very first tournament that weekend.
Hell yeah.
So was there deck designs? I know Marty likes to talk about the Elkanost. Obviously, I'm a big fanboy of it too. What did you guys all kind of have your signature deck? What was your design? I guess is that kind of how the card design for each of the cards that you guys made kind of also made its way into the game?
Back then there wasn't any rhyme or rhythm, or not enough cards to have true decks build. What I was trying to play was something similar to my first gen crowd control deck with Blue Dragon, Winter Chill, Fear, those CC kind of things. So I tried to build a deck like that, but without having 150 different cards. I think the actual number of different cards we had was 60.
So are you the stun guy? You're the guy who's making all the stun?
Yeah. 100%. I'm built I was telling Billy the other day here that I'm probably going to start trying to rebuild that stun deck, because I haven't tried to build it since Gen 2 came out. And it was super annoying in Gen 1, and now we got Gen 2 to build off of it too, and it's going to just be even worse.
Yeah, I want to get the other guys in here. What are cards, I guess, for maybe we could all go around and just say cards that stood out to us when we first got into Ward? I'm sure, like you said, Tommy, your take might be a little different than ours, but if I were to go first, like I said, when I first started Gen 2, I think the biggest creature that I noticed was Corn Creeper. I remember me and Tyler, we were talking about Corn Creeper, and Tyler's like, oh yeah, I'm going to make this a busted card. He's like, if you can just limit summon this card out and just have it attack and then go back, we were like, oh yeah, that would be the coolest deck. So I think Corn Creeper was definitely a fun one. How about you, Tyler? Was there?
Yeah, Summoner Corn Creeper.
Yeah, Summoner
that was the tech that I wanted to bring to the first tournament, and I was like, oh yeah, my dreams are crushed. Limited summons don't have abilities. but probably more
Yeah.
balanced that way, anyways.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Originally,
don't know.
we didn't have that rule for limited summons in development, and the game got busted instantly. We're like, okay.
Yeah, it makes it so like if that was the case right now, like limited summons would be the only deck. You wouldn't be able to play anything
Oh,
else
yeah.
because it just wouldn't be able to keep up with limited summon stuff. So, but
Correct.
I hate to be a broken record, but my first and true love in this game, Maniac, the boy. So
Yeah, that card definitely
I've
called
talked
to you.
enough about him though. But what
Yeah.
about you, Billy? You joined way back when, so you had a little bit different choice of cards.
Yeah, my first love was Necromancer. That was the first deck I brought to a tournament, and I just love the ability of like, just because my creature dies doesn't mean I'm not going to stop using it. Like it's coming back, and we can Ghost from the Past, we can Holy Light, we can do all sorts of nonsense to keep this guy in play, and it was just, it was just fun bringing it back. Gosh, I was playing a game recently over at Curious Crow with I think Chase from one of the Delano guys, that group,
Yep.
and we were playing the Learn to Play Day or whatever. And I was like, okay, I got like a newer take on my original Necromancer deck. You want to play? He was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm like, just play whatever you want. So I'm playing it, and like I beat him with essentially. I really only played 3 cards. It was Assassin, Necromancer, and Judgment, and I just kept cycling these cards back and forth and back and forth. And I'd either play a second Judgment or another Visitor from Beyond to get it back. And he was just like,
Ugh.
what? He just could not handle just like the cycling of the graveyard and the hand, the field, and I was like, yes. It felt very like field control and that you can't kill my guy, and it was fun, and I like playing that kind of style deck.
Oh yeah, and just going off that, that's exactly why there's very specific cards in Gen 2 that exist because of that style of deck being a very almost like a meta style in Gen 1 in like the first release. That's why you have cards like Bound with Chains. It doesn't get played that often, but if you ever get a new cycling deck out of the graveyard, that's it's a limiter for it. You can't do it because then everyone starts putting a Bound with Chains in their deck. Same thing with like Exorcism or Bug Spray. Nobody plays those cards, but if a bug deck like the Ancient One ever becomes a meta, now you just get 3 Bug Sprays sitting in a deck and it balances it.
Well, the interesting thing with that train of thought, it's like with Bug Spray, obviously right now, like you said, people don't play cards like that, but if there is a meta and in the future of the game, Gen 3, Gen 4, that's also something that you guys will have to think about when, developing those cards. I actually think one of the first ones that come to mind is Dragon Tamer. Obviously, it's like basically the only tutor in the game, but basically every dragon that you guys develop or create in the future, you'll have to keep that card in mind to try and keep it in check. I mean, even the newest promo card with the Time Dragon or whatever Time Dragon. Dragon of Time. Yeah.
Whose idea
you
was
could search them with Dragon Tamer, so pretty sick.
Whose idea was not the Time Dragon, the Dragon Tamer?
Dragon of Time.
Dragon Tamer, Tommy. I'm kind of curious. So you seem like you might be the dragon guy too. Are you the dragon guy?
So Dragon Tamer would have been one of the original cards that Joe came up with, like before I ever convinced him to like put a business on top of the game. Was Joe had probably like 90 cards made up, and so that was one of those cards that he had built that we had put into the game and all that kind of stuff. And so like the first 90 cards that were made, so you could probably put cards 1 through 90 for the actual numbers, and Joe probably made all of those or had just some inspiration for some of us, because back then it was Joe's mostly doing the project himself, and us just like, this was back when like image generation and all that stuff wasn't really around yet, and so we were all kind of pitching in a little bit with it.
So you'd say Joe was kind of the one leading it, though. He was really taking charge and like kind of getting the game figured out and developed.
Yeah. So a lot of I'd say like 80% of all the rules were developed by Joe and Q originally during the development. And so the way you actually win the game with the 300 health points in the cemetery, that was actually that came up with Q. So she was the one that came up with that idea, because originally Joe had the idea of just going with health points, kind of like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh or a lot of those other games.
Yeah.
But Q had no concept of those games, so she wasn't tainted, I'd say, by it. And so she's like, well, why don't you just make it like this? And we're like, oh, that's actually a great idea, which is so different from everyone else.
Very unique.
Well, it's very unique, and it's interesting that it can take someone that has not really any knowledge of the space to come up with that idea that like you said, you're not tainted by other ideas and kind of shoehorned into a certain mindset or a certain train of thought. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because early on, one of my ideas for like a resource in the game was actually putting like almost like a currency in the game, like a silver, bronze, gold coin type of thing, almost like
Dominion.
Is it? Yeah, the game Dominion. So almost something like that, and it didn't make it very far. I think we basically storyboarded it one time, and then it was like, nah, that's stupid. Let's stop doing that.
I think it's funny now. Now, anytime I'm struggling with my 300 graveyard, points, I'm gonna be like, God dang it, Q! Why do you gotta make the rules like this?
Yeah.
we have something to play. Curse you, Q!
Yeah. Well, the original limit was actually 500, and that's why the original creator was a 4 sacrifice creature to put into the game.
Yep.
And so
I'm guessing that was a similar choice to Eternal Dragon as well. The 4 dragons needed for that. Similar kind of idea. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then I think Old God was, I think he was 3 originally, and then all the other AL12s in the game were at 2. But after the very first tournament, just because of a time constraint, we brought everything down to 300. And then the final game was going to be against Joe, and he was going to have all the cards available in the entire game to build like an ultimate deck, and we were going to play a 500 health point game. It was like 8:30 at night. Everyone was done. The game was over. We're like, nah, we're good.
That's
we just didn't do that game. And then after that, the health points just almost never went back up. After that tournament, that just stayed at 300 because it just felt so much better than 500.
It's like the perfect amount.
Yeah.
I mean, that along with the 30 card deck, I feel like a lot of design choices that you guys ended up going with ended up working like super, super well together.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't that it was just like, oh, you struck gold by not doing any testing. There was a lot of testing, on the back of the beginning. But like, there was also a bunch of bumps and stuff like that, especially in those first, like, I'd say 6 months of like at the game being like launched. I'd say even kind of the alpha launch was, as you can see with some of the original prints, like the first 3 prints of the game all have like some of the cards are just the text's different on like a handful of them, because every time it'd be like, oh, that's completely broken, or it doesn't make any sense. And then after that, we kind of really started catching our footing and really started kind of running away with it.
Yeah, I feel like a thought that comes to my head. I mean, maybe you and Billy can both give your take on this. Like, how did creatures feel? Like, I guess, is that also something that maybe was hard to balance? Like, I'm kind of curious, like, how did you guys figure out, like, the modifier? It's like, how did you figure out, like, the whole system? Like, okay, they're going to have dice rolls, they're going to have the modifier, it's like, I guess I know a lot of it kind of gets taken from, like, a D&D kind of thing of, like, oh, here's their armor value, here's this and this. But I'm kind of curious, like, was that harder to balance? Was the creatures, or was was Magic harder to balance?
So during development, it was definitely the creatures that we were so much more focused on, and so that was the real challenge during the development phase, was the creatures. And then it was the first, like, kind of like the first 6 months. That's when the Magic kind of gave us a kick in the butt. Was we're like, oh, because you start basically crowdsourcing all these ideas, and you get 50 or 100 people that are all thinking of ideas in very unique ways that we just never would have been able to think of. Or we don't have 100,000 hours to think about this stuff. And so that's where the weird combinations of all the Magic cards started killing us. And that's why, like, Generation 2, which, you know, you could ask any of the award staff, it's almost all of our favorite generation because we had the knowledge how to build the game correctly.
Yeah.
So,
like, obviously, one was more of like a shot in the dark. Let's get 150 cards to get, you know, kind of throw it at the wall. Where Gen 2, you had all the knowledge and learnings from developing Gen 1 going into Gen 2 and could make decisions based on that.
Right. And that's kind of how Gen 3 is going right now. Oh yeah, by the way, Gen 3 is in development.
We would expect so, hopefully.
Yeah, right. So no, it's kind of always in development, right? You know,
Yeah.
I'd say even cards that aren't making it into Gen 3 are getting put into the back burner. And once
for Gen
like
4
for Gen 4. Yep, promos, Gen 4. That's kind of like the Dragon of Time, to go back to your original question. Was the Dragon of Time actually was a bonus art piece that during Gen 2, during the Gen 1 second edition development, we accidentally left it in the folder that we gave Fabricio, the artist. And so he created the art piece for Dragon of Time because it was part of the original set. And so he made it, and we're like, oh, shoot. Should we make Dragon of Time? Or no. We're not doing it. We're not going down that road. So we didn't re-release it with it because, you know, Undead Dragon existed in the game already.
Could have been the 151, you know.
Yeah. Well, not to give away all the secrets, and I'm sure Joe will just, you know, shake his head in the background here later. But Silence from the Grave was another piece that was a accidental art that got made at that time.
Oh boy!
And so we had the art for it, and it was kind of later in the development that we were like, should we throw this in there? And we're like, yeah, okay. But what would we take out? We're like, let's not take anything out. Let's just drop it. So
that was awesome.
So we threw it in there.
Yeah, it was pretty sick to have a secret card.
I mean, the first time when Ryan posted that for the first time, like, hey, you got my boxes, like, what's this card? Like, we don't know. It's like,
right.
Oh, like 151. Right. Like, let's go.
That's pretty sick.
It was so cool.
Yeah, and we intentionally left it off the website. We intentionally didn't tell people. I think Joe might have sworn to stab LB like 6 or 7 times if he told anybody. So
that's awesome. You know, yeah, definitely.
But LB,
you would definitely
work.
He did. Yep.
Yeah. I will give him credit.
It was so cool.
I want
one of my favorite parts of that release.
I want to pull us back. Like I said, I kind of want to get a take. Like, is there a specific creature like from Gen 1 that maybe was problematic that you guys would be willing to talk about? Maybe Billy, was there a creature that maybe you noticed or anything like when you guys were in the beta? I want to get your take, Billy, too.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't really speak too much about the beta, or even I wasn't around during Legacy. I really jumped into the first edition.
Okay.
And the limited ban list had been kind of solidified at that point. There was a point where Revival Priest had just kind of been not on there. Everyone assumed it was limited because it's just that good. It's, you know,
you show up with 3. It's like,
well, the first time I played it, I showed up with 2, and then Marty LB was actually counting my deck. He was like, you've got 2 Revival Priests. I'm like, it's not on the list, and he was like, okay.
Oof.
And then the next, I eventually traded to get my 3rd one, and as soon as I get my 3rd one, they release it like, nope, it's limited. And it's like, they're like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's on me. That's fine.
That's pretty funny. How about for you, Tommy, then? Was there like a creature that you guys had trouble with the Legacy, or with even maybe just the Gen 1 that like you said, obviously the creator had 4 sacks. I know you had to adjust that a couple times. There was a couple other cards. Was there anyone that was like kind of a real problem for you guys, or that you had to do a lot of work with?
Yeah, well, you can't talk about problems without bringing up Time Dragon, right? So,
Yeah.
There you go.
Time Dragon went through, I think, 3 revisions before it finally got the ban hammer. It was just one of those things without completely changing the effect. There was nothing we could do to basically get it fixed without just completely changing the card. And that's what Undead Dragon is. It's a complete change of the card and add in the lore a little bit about basically killing off time dragons and putting the undead dragon back into the game. So that's why it has the same number. It's a dragon, it's undead. And so we thought, lore wise, let's make this happen. So
gave it a good send off, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For the folks at home who maybe weren't around to experience the ridiculousness of Time Dragon, can you kind of explain why it deserved the ban?
Yeah. So the original effect of Time Dragon was when this card is summoned to the field, it was a AL9 with like an 11 speed and 90 health or something along those lines. But the kicker was the effect was send the last 5 cards on the top of your deck back to your hand. Or, sorry, from your graveyard back to your hand. Yeah. And so you could essentially, you get back the creature that you sacrificed for. So it's basically at no cost. It's kind of like Angel has, right? But now you get 4 more cards for it. So, oh, cool. I'm going to bring back my Revival Priest. I'm going to bring back my Ghost from the Past, my Visitor from Beyond. And you know what? Why not? Let's just bring back any other card I want at the same time. So people were playing the game knowing I'm going to summon this in 4 turns. I'm going to play these other 5 cards knowing I'm going to get them back. And you just keep doing that again and again and again. And so it just created infinite loops that happened. And I love the card. Honestly, it was my favorite card. Like, it was one of the ones that I built at the beginning. The art was my original idea with it. I absolutely crushed Q one time with it in development. She hated it. She was playing her assassin because that's her card that she loves and made. And I crushed her with it. And, we knew it was strong. That's why it got like the epic. It probably should have fallen into the legendary even at the beginning.
Wow, was it epic?
Yeah, it was only an epic. So,
everybody can blame Tommy now.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely
crazy.
First ban card.
Wait, I have one thing to bring up. You're telling me Time Dragon was an epic and Zombified was a legend. Like that is crazy, dude.
Yeah, well, we originally had the thought when we were playing with Zombified at the beginning, it was, I can equip this to your big bad AL12 that you spent all this time getting out, and I can just tick down your armor level and turn it into nothing. It was like, while we were developing, it had great showings. Like, it showed awesome. And then when it got into actual play, there was just better cards. And it's like, okay, I'm just never putting that in there. So, right? Like, anything else.
Makes sense. Well, I mean, obviously, you learn from, developing cards like that. I actually kind of wanted to bring in that. Do you notice that from Gen 1? Because obviously when me and Harry, we got into Gen 2 first, so we were used to all the Gen 2 creatures. And when we initially looked at the Gen 1 list of creatures, we were like, none of these are that great. And obviously there's a very lowish modifier on a lot of creatures. Was that something that you guys were kind of kind of worried to do when balancing set 1, was to give these kind of, higher modifiers for certain creature that you then obviously going into Gen 2 felt a lot better about doing?
Yeah, we felt a lot more, we felt more like the creatures were, like, we didn't want to overpower them too much, because then, it would just break the game that way, not realizing that we were actually underpowering a lot of cards. And then we realized that the magic cards in Gen 1 almost became broken. And so we wanted to balance the game back out with Gen 2 by basically giving all the creatures a buff. That's why you get cards like natural selection, with the attempts to get these non-effect creatures some love by giving them a nice big buff on them and giving them like, giving them the juice to actually participate in the game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense. I think of creatures like Bronto. I think like you said, it's like pushing AL's 7. Like if you look at Gen 1, it's like there really wasn't a creature that even like, I mean, obviously besides like ones that took 3 sacks or 4 or whatever the number was at the time. You know what I mean? It's like you had to really commit a lot to get even those higher modifiers, where it's just like in Gen 2, it felt like you guys did loosen up a little bit and were like, okay, we want creatures, like you were saying, to like be strong by themselves. So it's like we need to have them be able to hit and just do things on their own, not just rely on the magic to help.
Green Dragon.
Well, I'm sure if you had,
yeah,
7. Yeah, I feel like if you did like a graph, or if you put basically all the dice rolls and modifiers from Gen 1 and Gen 2. For Gen 1, you'd see the 2 right at the end with Creator and Old God, and then there'd just be like a giant separation. There'd be like Cosmic Demon, and then another like giant separation, and then just like everything else. Whereas Gen 2 obviously has a much more even balance in terms of like power level.
So it's actually something that we did do. It was after the release of Gen 1 and all that stuff. It wasn't during development. But we built it, and then, way up here in the corner existed Assassin. And then right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, there's your average damage up here. And then it was like, Creators right over here. And then it was like, okay, then Old God, then Cosmic Demon. And then you had this slope that just went like this of all the other cards that existed right there. And the slope, it works. It looks like exactly how it should, with all your like AL12s kind of clustered in here, your 7 through like 11s in here, and then lower. And there's the exceptions, like the Assassin and some of those cards, but it actually came out pretty well. But when we were developing Gen 2, we built that graph. And then when we were doing development with it, we're like, we've got a weird cluster up here. Bring them down or shift them over, so they're either more expensive and their average damage is higher, or they're cheaper, but their average damage is lower.
No, it makes a lot of sense. When we've talked a little bit about going to Gen 2 and how you guys kind of use that to recorrect a little bit of like Gen 1. I'm kind of curious from your take. I mean, how do you feel like the game now has changed? Does it feel like it changed the way you guys were anticipating, or like the cards that are being played now that weren't, really probably getting to see play in Gen 1? Like what's your guys' thoughts? I guess, I don't know if you're willing to share, but like, how do you guys view the game now? Does it feel like it's like more cards get to see play, or like there's more depth to it now, or what's your take with both the Gen 1 and Gen 2? And
yeah, and I think the original release of the game very much felt exactly how we wanted it: creature to creature combat with some support with magic cards. And then towards the end of Gen 1, magic cards really became the driving force. The creatures were kind of like secondary. And that was the try to fix with Gen 2, was bring the creatures back to the front of the, front of the bus on this one. And because that's really supposed to be what drives the game, is the creature to creature combat, right? And the magic there is supposed to be there to support and, add twists into the game to like, turn the tides, right?
I said the thing.
He said the thing.
So, but yeah, no. I think it really plays the way we intended the game. It does play that way, and it's not just by accident. It is by design and by forcing it into the positions we want it through card development and through the rules. As things progress, making rulings and stuff during games, it's not only are we taking into account, does this actually make sense? Does the card say it? But is this the intent of the game as well? Right? That's always kind of in the back of your head, is this the intent of the game? And is this how we wanted the game to be played? And that's why, like, with the re-release of Gen 1, discarding we got rid of discarding. It was never an intent. It was, any of the board staff that you talk to, people might like discarding in the game, but that's not what we wanted. We didn't want it to be like that. And that's why Watcher got nerfed, as it did. Jester got nerfed as it did, just because I hate that way. It's not a creature to creature combat, right? You're just now insta killing. And that's why you don't see any insta kill cards in the game. So the only
It's-
thing you're going to get is like your Apocalypse cards or your Ward Carnage Ward or Ward Carnage or whatever like that. So
it's
you get some of those chance cards that Tyler loves, but
Yeah.
Is-
No, you see, I like chance cards that make it where I
Yeah.
always get a good thing.
yeah,
well, it's interesting too that
Best card.
you brought up the discard because I mean I think not to speak for me, Tyler and Billy, but I think like in the competitive scene, the view of bouncing too. I'm kind of curious what your guys' take on. I know Gen 1 had a lot of bouncing. Was that a very intended like mechanic that you wanted? Because obviously going into Gen 2, I mean I would say there's basically zero bounce besides a creature effect that I can think of off the top
More
of my
like
head.
counter. Yeah, there's zero. I mean, there's like a zero bounce and a lot of counters. to
Because it's like
bounce.
personally, I'm a
Yeah.
big fan of not having the bounce because, like you said, those are also very powerful effects that make it feel like it's not really too much about like the creature. It's more about like
Yep.
just these effects that are knocking creatures back. What is your guys'? What was your take on bouncing, or like why does it feel like Gen 1 had a lot of bounce mechanics in it? I guess.
during development, the AL12 cards were almost broken to the point of you summon to the field and you own the field. So the bounce cards were intended to nerf those AL12s a little bit and do it, you just sacrificed two creatures. Here's my Wrath of the Old One to get rid of your AL12, and now you just spent a bunch of resources to get a card out that you aren't playing, which they're still being used that way, but it's kind of gone the other way where it almost over nerfed the AL12s because of that reason, which is never the intent. The AL12s were supposed to be high cost, high reward, though. I get one on the field, I own the field this way. And that was some of the intent of like lead boots and some things like that is I'm going to put my AL12 on the field. I'm going to put lead boots on it. There's nothing you can do to stop it other than fight it. So,
Well,
and
you
I
can.
Yep. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you can also see like it with feature cards with the newer promos that you guys are almost like trying to add a little bit of strength to AL12 creatures. I mean, coming with the Frogman promo, where when
Yeah.
you sack, creatures, obviously you're doing 2 with an AL12. So depending on
Mhm.
that creature, you're making it really, really, really strong and making AL12s a lot more appetizing to play. In decks,
Yeah.
I guess.
Exactly, right. And I'll give Joe all the credit for that one because that was definitely his idea.
Yeah.
But that card, because one of my concerns was we could make AL12s that are really strong and add them to the game. But now I have a bunch of garbage AL12s from Gen 1 and Gen 2 that don't get played. So how do I add something to the game to make all the older AL12s also great? And I think that's what Word United does. I think it makes those old AL12s gain some life. So, and then
Yeah,
you get
I mean,
yeah.
I'm super excited for the promos. I've loved seeing new cards. I love seeing kind of where your mind is going with developing certain cards. Like I said, you can kind of see buffing AL12s. You have 2 AL12 creatures that you added to the game, along with
Mhm.
maximum wards. So now you obviously have the Dragon of Time, and then you have the Eternal Titan's brother. I forget what his name is
Omega
offhand.
Titan.
but-
Omega Titan. It's
Yeah,
his clone.
Omega
It's his clone.
Yeah, the
Oh,
The
clone.
clone.
Yeah. He actually kind of reminds me of I'm not sure if you guys have ever watched Invincible, but there's this character
Yeah.
called the Mauler twins. Yeah, he kind of
Oh.
reminds me of like the Mauler twins. Yeah.
I thought of the same thing when we were building that.
Oh
I thought
yeah,
of
that's
those
so
two.
cool.
Who's the real one, right?
Yeah. Oh
That's
yeah, we
funny.
get Clancy Brown in there.
Yeah,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That'd be fat. That'd be
I need to
great.
get back though.
But
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, God, Harry just left. He's
I apologize. Hold on one second.
I wasn't prepared with the question.
Yeah. I'll fill some time while he's gone then.
No,
Yeah, there you
I'm
go.
back now. I apologize. We were having some technical stuff.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
I think my main thing with the AL12, like we were you guys were saying, like I do think they are powerful, but yeah, it just feels like there was a lot of mechanics in the game that's like, at least at a competitive level, it's like it doesn't feel like it's very worth to play that AL12, especially like you were saying with the assassin. It's like it almost feels better to have the assassin than like the AL12, I guess. Like you guys were saying, it's like damage output's way out here. It doesn't cost you a whole heck of a lot to put an assassin out. So it's like it definitely was a very big question of mine of like why exactly. It's like you said, it's like was AL12 just so strong that it was like you needed these things to prevent it? And I guess like you said, you kind of answered the question. And so it's just like, yeah, I kind of wish AL12s were more in the game. I do come from Yu-Gi-Oh, where big boss monsters are like kind of the thing in that game. So it's just like, yeah, I definitely wish that AL12s had a little more love. I guess is in my opinion, because yeah, in competitive scene and they don't. It's hard to really fit them in your decks just because of how much mechanics there are.
Three helping hands.
Yeah, right.
Fight the living chickens. Ambush. Go nuts.
Right. And development wise, that's definitely on our priority list of how do you make them relevant, right? So during our development, that is kind of one of our our critical things at the top of our list is trying to create a reason or a value to those cards again, because that was what Gen 2 was, right? Build another set with a bunch of unique cards that are fun to play, but also add some keynote cards throughout it, like Scroll of Silence, Billy's bread and butter, that kills it kills any Magic Negate deck, right? You put in all 12 Magic Negates in your deck, it doesn't matter because you can get your guaranteed 3 cards you need because of that one card. So adding those critical little pieces into generations to balance and to expand the game is the scope of the development process.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually was curious, do you find it harder? I mean, obviously you guys have, with the new promos, I think it's like 317 cards now in the total library of the game. Do you guys find it harder and more challenging to come up with new card ideas and being able to look back on the other 316 cards or 317 cards and try and create situations in your head where you're like, this is not going to break the game? And obviously that becomes more and more challenging because obviously you're only a small team, and it just becomes really difficult to be able to test everything that you want with so many different cards as each new set comes out.
Yeah, and a lot of that, obviously lots of development during each generation comes from that, but also each one of us not only like just we talk together as a team, but like we also have like our extended teams that we kind of just bounce ideas off of. LB has a group of people that he talks to regularly. I've got a group of people I talk to regularly that are vested in Ward. Joe does, all that stuff. So, we're obviously internally making those decisions, but the extended group that we're actually talking to is probably somewhere in like the 15 to 20-ish people range, and even stuff like this. I watch your guys' podcast every single week, and right, and
you got a fan. You got a fan.
The ideas and concepts you guys come up with, it puts ideas in my head, and I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Or watching Mage Hammer's, a couple boss battles. Shout out Mage Hammer. Go watch his stuff. There you go.
Hell yeah.
Shout out some creators.
Right.
Damn right.
Yeah, right. But also watching how he builds decks too. Because he's not in a competitive scene. He's playing more as a casual single player against these bosses, and seeing how he's fighting them to not only create a game for the competitive players, but also for the casual players that are out there just to have fun.
Yeah. So yeah, that's awesome. That's super awesome.
I guess that is a very interesting take. Obviously, like you've inspired a lot of people to kind of do their own content on it. Like you said, it sounds like you take a little bit from everybody, but it's like what is that initial thought when you were like, oh wow, like these people are all like putting this much commitment into our game and like like trying to help it grow. It's like I'm very curious. It's like what did that look like from your perspective?
It's it's one of those things that it warms all of our hearts literally just to see people love this game as much as we did at the beginning, right? We only built the game and expanded the game because we actually really liked it, and we're like, wow, this is so much fun. I'm having more fun with this game than with other games that I've played in the past, And we see that with, every single person, like, you guys, and making the WWB content and all that stuff. And so, we love to see it, because not because we're businessmen and all that stuff, but because we're players and we just want to have a fun game. I want this to keep growing because I want to have more people to play Ward against and with. That's why it is. It's like, it's making friends.
Right. No, and I think the community
really is.
the community reflects that a lot, and I think that, like, you nail it right on the head. I mean, like I said, I think it's something that, like, when we all, like, agreed to this, like you said, we're on the very competitive edge of, like, the game, and like, me and Tyler, we talk a lot, and Billy, and it's just like I always look at us as, like, the guys who are, like, breaking the game for you, because like you said, it's like you come to the tournaments and it's like this is the highest level of what Ward, like, kind of is. And so, like, a lot of times I, like, tell Tyler, I'm just like, I don't know how much they like us breaking all their cards, and we always kind of have talks about it. It's like Tyler broke Maniac. There's a lot of things that, like, you even said, like, in, like, the initial, like, start of the game, that's like these things were broken, and it's just like, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's like, oh, like, I'm sure you guys are glad that people are really pushing the game to its limits, but it's like, I know that Joe really, like, pushes, like, oh yeah, this is a for fun game, and, like, obviously, we agree. It's like, I don't want everyone to be like, I need to be the best, competitive. Some, like you were saying, like Magic Hammer, it's like he just sits there, plays by himself. It's like the game is also
Mage
fun
Hammer.
for Mage Hammer. Sorry, thank you. But you know what I mean. It's like he just sits there, plays by himself. It's just, it's just interesting that every kind of, like, aspect of Ward is, like, kind of getting covered, and it's like, it's like I think that is just, like, great to make sure that enough people can view it and see it. And like I said, I think one of the saddest things, I really like what you guys did with the Liedrich tournament too. It's just like having that live stream. It's like, that's kind of what I want this to be, is, like, provide people, like, an actual, like, vision of, like, what is going on in Ward at this current moment. And, like, hopefully for the whole future, it's like that's what we all can do, is, like, kind of, like, give the visual. It's like I've seen a lot of tournaments beyond, like, streamed or whatever, and it's just like that's kind of where it needs to get, right, for, like, everyone to get eyes on it, get people who, like, right now there's a ton of people who, like, can't get the game played, like, competitively in their areas, and a lot of people like watching the competitive scene. So it's like, sorry, I know I'm rambling with it, but that's just that's where my thoughts have been. It's just like, I'm just glad that, like, people are able to get all this content on it, and hopefully we can just keep pushing it.
Yeah, well, it's nice to see all the. It's nice to see all the stores you guys have been adding. I mean, even the past week, it's like one or two a day. It's been fantastic, all over too. A bunch of different states.
And I can give the shout outs to John, LB, and Joe on that one. I do a lot of the background work. I'm sending out, the invoices, dealing with a lot of our, like, paperwork and all that kind of stuff. But Joe, John, and LB are really the ones, they're out there. They're the ones calling the stores. They're the ones sending out emails. They're the one doing logistics. I jump in there and talk, numbers with these stores after they're already interested. But it's really those three that are out on the front line kind of getting it going. And so, and then, also shouting out at Q, because she's basically a taskmaster. She's texting us and making sure we're doing all the stuff that we promised we would do that we're not doing. So,
Cool, keeps you guys in check. Yeah, you definitely need someone like that.
Absolutely. She asks me all the time when I'm going to finish getting the extended descriptions on second edition. I keep telling her, I'm like, it's probably going to be like tomorrow. So,
we can tell who the leader is here now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she definitely seems like an extremely valuable member of the team.
Oh, for sure. She runs Joe's house, takes care of all of his kids, while Joe just does nothing and sits there.
Whoa,
Nice.
slandering the man. Hold on.
Boys of blue.
Right. So no, but
He can defend himself.
Yeah, now we have to get Joe on just so he can rebuttal. Careful there, careful, Tommy, with what you say.
He's gonna get.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, we got, and then there's the kind of the extended groups of people that you kind of join us regularly and help out. I've got my youngest brother Jack. He comes out to support us at a lot of conventions when we're down a man or something like that. Cool. We've got Zach and Dustin that help LB out a ton up there with the stuff he's doing. Just kind of. And even if it's not anything like actually related to the game at the time, it's, it might be bouncing ideas off, even Billy over here, I think I chew his ear every single day about stuff. So
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, don't forget about me and Harry. We like some love sometimes too.
like I said though earlier, having the WWB, this content out here, this is just as valuable as sitting down and physically talking to someone, and maybe even more because I'm not giving you guys any I'm not saying anything to you guys. So this is all just fresh off your head, exactly what your guys' thoughts are, and so it's the true, honest opinions of what you guys are talking about, and you guys breaking the game.
I call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call it kind of like the brain blast. It's like that blood of the bat and the demonic turtle.
That's
it's like
exactly
things that you
what I
just
was
never
thinking
think
about.
of, and you're like on the podcast, and you're just like, oh shit, I just thought of this. I mean, another one, the last deck that I played at the last tournament, the Eternal Dragon. That started off with me and Harry just talking, and just went to, what if I killed my own creature?
Well,
that'd be kind of funny.
Tyler always tells.
Like,
Tyler
how
always,
do I get that?
No,
That was
Tyler always
awful.
tells
I
this.
hated that.
No, Tyler tells the story wrong. Sorry, I have to cut everyone off. The way it started is he looks at Eternal Dragon and he goes, "This card might be the worst card in the game." That is how that whole conversation.
Yeah,
and then he says, "Wait a minute. What if I give them this worst card in the game and then kill it?"
Deck.
That is how the
And I
actual.
was like, well, how would I kill it? It's like, well, I could probably attach some bombs to it, and then it just went further and further, and it's crazy.
Yeah. No,
But yeah,
you're
things
gonna
like that.
disrespect it. You're gonna disrespect that card so much. You're not even gonna not play it. You are going to play it and then give it to them just so you can kill it.
Oh no! Don't worry.
You want to know what the even more
is?
disrespecting to do is? You want to know what the more disrespecting to do is? All that, and then make your playmat him as well, just so you could play that one
Right.
at
Right.
the Ward Bowl.
me and Tyler always talk about it. We make a joke that it's just like, oh yeah, he's just mistreating this poor dragon and he just has to put up with it. I was like, he's just one of the meanest deck builder people. He's just treating his monsters.
Basically, it's like I'm treating him poorly after being depressed about Maniac being gone. It's like this is what it's kind of like my rebound relationship, and I just hate him. I hate him so much that I just want Maniac back.
It's feeding it. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. I don't want you anymore every day of its life.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, I think I want to get Billy in here too. I was kind of curious, like you guys, you were talking about like artwork and things for the cards and like Fabricio, and it's just like I was kind of curious, like what is like the art style of these cards? Is that like is this like your image? Like honestly, like I remember looking at legacy cards and I was just like, they're not that bad. And I'm sure like you guys said, you probably just kind of did the best you could making the cards. And like what was your take? Like I get it. Like I will say Fabricio definitely does quality work, and like I really appreciate that. And like what was your thought with like the artwork? Like when you guys first looked at the cards, you're like, we definitely need to like make this look like more modern or more like up to the level. Like what I'm kind of curious with that.
I guess before I do that, let me throw it back at you guys a little bit. Why don't each of you guys tell me of the legacy, first edition, and second gen, art styles, which one do you prefer the most? Billy, give me it.
So what's my options first? Legacy, first edition, or second edition?
Yeah, because the second, yeah, exactly, because those are kind of the same art style. So
yeah, that's a good question.
Ooh.
Honestly, it's card dependent because like there's some cards where I'm like, dang, I just really like the Legacy Wizard that looks like Captain Crunch, or Legacy, Lucky Charm that's got the Tims on, but there's a lot of really good looking cards that Fabricio does, and honestly, like the work he did to redo first gen is just like top notch. So I think for the entirety of the game, I'd have to go like we'll call it the Fabricio style.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll rank them Fabricio, like second gen, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy, just because there's like Dad bought a Werecroc, like can't be beaten. No, there's no way you can make another Werecroc that's better than that. And then I'll go with first edition, but not by too much because I don't know. Like it's like you got where the game is now, and the cards look phenomenal. And then you got nostalgia, and then you got like, well, I have to put first edition somewhere, so I'll just put it there. So that's my answer.
How about you, Tyler?
Also,
Oh,
yeah, it's just good. No, that's what I got. So
Tyler.
I apologize. I was trying to fix something. What was the question?
Oh, just artwork wise, like what art? Like, is there anything?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say Gen 2. I think I just think it's super clean. I do enjoy Fabricio. I mean, obviously I think with the artwork at the beginning, it was a little bit AI, right?
The legacy
something
stuff
like that.
was because that was the stuff we never
Yeah.
intended to sell. That was all of our development stuff.
For sure.
Then when we finally launched the game, that's when we found Mark Evans, the original artist.
Yeah, I guess I just like the creative mind of Fabricio. I mean, I started with the Gen 2 cards, so it's probably a little bit more biased as well. I wasn't able to,
Mhm.
fall in love with any of the OG cards, but yeah, and then the being able to basically not play with the Gen 1 cards, but look at them kind of from a glance. I didn't really have any of them, so and then seeing all of the different ideas that he came with for the reprint artwork. I think that was super cool, seeing the different ideas that he had and things like that. I mean, some of the cards are like kind of like it kind of likes to celebrate what the card used to be, and then there's some that are just like completely revamped to his what he looked at. I kind of think of like Hive Lord's kind of like a spiritual successor,
Oh, for
kind
sure.
of similar.
I think
it's
it's
much
Psychic
better.
Toad, because like the original Psychic Toad is pretty
Oh,
great.
sure.
I mean, Tom, it's your
Yeah,
icon.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, I love it, yeah.
Fabricio's version on it, where he's got the hand up, he's got like it's like
Yeah,
how can you
it's
make
awesome.
perfection better?
Yeah.
Thanks, Fabricio.
How can we take something that's already fantastic and like not make it a little bit better, but also like use all the things that is great from the first one.
The where I come from.
Nipple ring.
Yeah, the nipple ring. Big classic in the Discord, the nipple ring. But no, where I come from, I think when I seen the biggest like separation of the two, I remember I was looking at one of the promo cards, the Marshall. What's that guy? Lord Marshall.
Lord Marshall Goroth.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I just remember somebody posted a picture of like the old, legacy version of him. It was just way more like gothic and like really dark and like gritty. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like for a second, I was like, is that actually like a ward card? Like I remember I had that thought in my head. It was like hard for my brain to like process. It was like, especially after like Tyler said, we came in with Fabricio's like art. So it was just like, it was a very different take. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess that is a ward card. And that's kind of where I got more into the legacy. So it's like, yeah, I will say, I have to say Fabricio, just like you said, Tyler, it's like we came in at that time. That was the artwork that, I established with Ward. And so I don't know if it's just the mental brain of just being like, here, yeah, this is what I like better. But like, definitely there are a couple cards like that I've seen from like Legacy and stuff that it's just like, yeah, like I love you can see the authenticness of like, you guys weren't just trying to like copy off of some other card game. It was like, you guys were really trying to like make your own like imagery of and what you want to take from it. And like, obviously you said comic books were kind of an inspiration, but it's like, it was just pretty impressive to see like how it's evolved throughout all the generations.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of how we found it, or how it developed is, if you ask Joe the question, he's obviously going to say Fabricio. I think we all could agree. I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that truly believes that any of those other versions were better. Maybe a single card you like, I had a preference of this, but it's just better in general, right? It's just better in general. And then with Joe's vision of when he originally started the game, that's what Fabricio is drawing right now. That's Joe's original intent, was this style, and that's why he hit it on the nail on the head. He does amazing, and Joe's original intent is coming to life right now. So,
no,
yeah,
I agree. And like I said,
pose a question, Harry. For the group.
Go ahead.
Just because we're on the topic. Favorite Fabricio art.
Favorite Fabricio art?
Oh
yeah.
It might sound silly, but the Aqua Dragon, maybe I'm a sucker for fat, chubby dragons, but I don't know why. But as soon as I seen that promo, I was like, yeah, I want to get a copy of that card for sure. I also do. I
I feel
also.
like
Oh, sorry. I also do like the sleepy scent, the little dinosaur, just like all snuzzled
scent's
up on the
good.
ground. I don't know what it is. Maybe cute little faces.
It's so
give
cute.
Me,
So
yeah.
cute.
yeah, I gotta go with all-in-one playmat. I mean, I got it for a reason. I think it's just too cool. I mean, it's kind of reminds you of kind of like an anime type thing too. Someone powering up Dragon Ball Z style or something. You know,
I will
pretty
say.
sick.
I will say
But
Gen 2 definitely had a lot of that. It felt like you got the abs ripping. You got like everybody just looks like they're like ready to be like the superhero. Like I feel bad for Captain Ward. He's like, I'm the hero of Ward. Nobody else should have this title, but it's like everyone else is just competing with Captain Ward for it.
yeah, he's like showing off his six pack, and then the perfect shark just walks up behind him. He's like, what were you saying?
And then
What was that,
Inferno
Captain
Wizard,
Ward?
and then everybody.
Yeah.
There's just all the ab guys.
Yeah, right. Q must have been involved in some of that. Be like, yeah, like it's not about the big busty women, it's about abs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
What's
I
your
like
favorite?
that.
What's your favorite art, Tommy, for Fabricio?
Ooh. I might have to go with Steam Rex.
Ooh.
Steam Rex is just an absolute banger.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
The art itself is spot on, and you can't argue with the effect on them too, which I think just adds to the card and the art itself. Because sometimes if you have a crappier effect with a crappier card, even if the art is amazing, I think it takes away a little bit from it and doesn't make it as good.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
Which kind of goes to Demon Dragon. Little tidbit is Demon Dragon was originally a common card. We got the art back, and we're like, dude, that's way too cool to suck.
Oh.
Yeah,
we need to make that better. So we jacked that thing up, and we made him so much better on it.
I love it.
It was just too cool. We have to do something. Yeah. So
yeah, I like that.
I like the question, Billy. I have another thing that I'd like us all to do. So, in the vein of probably what Tommy has to do a lot, it's like, okay, let's everybody pick a card that you think maybe needs a little bit more oomph or like something that you would like to see out of it, and like let's do the improving, which I'm sure is something that Tommy and all you guys have to think a lot about. Is like, hey, how can we make cards that like maybe this didn't hit the mark, maybe we can make it like hit the mark next time kind of thing. I thought we could go around and everybody just pick a card and then talk about hitting the mark. I know me and Tommy had a talk at one of the tournaments about just cards that like feel a little underwhelming and how we can make them hit the mark. If you want to go ahead first, Tyler, though, we'll work our way to Tommy because I'm sure he has a lot of good takes on it.
A lot of or one of my favorite cards to not be nice to. First Law, I think, is just a very, very it's not strong enough to be a legendary. Like I think that card could be a rare, and that might not even be too much for it. I've thought a lot about like ways to change it. I think Harry didn't like this idea that much, but I think if you changed it from instead of getting like one modifier for each dice to get, you get one dice roll and one modifier. I think that would make it from like the worst to the best, like one of the best. I would instantly want 3 of those and would throw them all in my equip decks. But
First
maybe
Law,
that's too strong.
First Law was a weird card where it came in Gen 2, and again, we didn't have the draw power in Gen 2. We didn't have Twister, we didn't have Dragon Rage. Like, you didn't have things that could really affect the drawing of people, so it was like, it just felt like such a weird card, and like, I don't know, again, Tyler, you're right. I think adding a dice to it would make it like a lot stronger. I just find it like you said, I have a hard time with cards that require my opponent to have to it's under their control, right? I mean, I can manipulate their hand a little bit, but it's like for the most part it's like they can really control. It's like, okay, he played First Law, and now my next turn, if I'm able to, I'm going to try to dump out my hand, which maybe is like a good thing to have in a game, but like you said, it does feel a little underwhelming in that regard.
I mean, I don't know, there's lots of ways to control your opponent's hand. Like, you could, if Foggy Night prevents a lot of different cards from being played, freaking the 151 Sounds from the Grave, you can't play 66% of your deck now. Okay, that's probably 66% of your hand, and I can play probably a bunch of Twisters before then, so I can load you up. So there's I think there's lots of ways I'm not trying to justify saying First Law is the best legendary. I'm just saying I think there's more manipulation than maybe.
I just think from like what you're getting from the cards that they have in their hand doesn't even make it worth it. Like even if I can give 16 cards to their hand for one turn, plus 16, yeah, it does damage, but like, does it do that much? Like not enough. I think I'd rather have a creator's gift than a plus 16 modifier.
All right, well,
for
I'm
one
about to
turn,
do some
you know.
math. Give me a minute, since you want to be that guy.
Well, I want to hear Tommy's take. We're not gonna go too crazy here. Like I said, I want to just pick one card, and like I said, it's kind of the realm Tommy probably has to live in most days. So we're all trying to get in the Tommy shoes. I want everyone to put on Tommy's, I'm assuming, pretty big shoes that he has to fill, and see what it's like being Tommy.
Well, Billy, do you got a card? Do you got a card?
I have a card.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk about any card. I'm going to talk about one that Erica keeps yapping in my ear every time I talk about it. He is always just like, every time I mention Jerry, she's like, I hate Jerry. I hate Jerry. I hate Jerry. It should copy everything. I'm like, well, it does copy everything. She's like, no, it should copy the buffs too. It should be an equal fight every time, no matter what. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's not what the card is. She's like, so that's her rant. So now I'll be a vessel for that, I guess.
I think the ability I think that would be cool.
You cannot copy the ability. There ain't no way. No
yeah,
freaking way.
that you got to be careful with that.
You don't think so?
I think that's
no way.
I don't know. I think in what way? Where does it break? Where does it break?
Necromancer.
How? As soon as you kill the necromancer, you like. I don't know. Why would that? I don't know. I guess then you're at even playing.
So wait. I just want to make sure we're getting this straight. He's copying buffs and getting their ability. Is that the?
It's not like
I'd say I think the copying buffs is too much, but I think the ability is.
So he
fine.
just.
Yeah, I think that's worse.
How? If you're copying whatever you're copying, you're just also fighting against. So it's like if you're fighting an assassin, sure, that's fine. But you guys are just gonna speed off, and then she might just almost kill you anyways. And then if you copy a bigger creature, you have less HP than them. So you're probably not gonna kill them anyways, but you'll deal a decent chunk. I don't know. I guess I mean, maybe there's something that just breaks it, but I don't think so.
No, I don't know how it breaks, but I'll tell you. Jerry.
You copy giant
Jerry,
rat?
No, but I mean, pretend for a second you have Jerry, and pretend it also copies the abilities. I'm just gonna put 3 mind saps on my deck, and as soon as I get you on the field, your mind sap, I'm taking your ability, I'm taking your stuff. Like, I don't know, like that's strong. I don't know if it's. I haven't thought about like how is it broken, but.
Yeah, but as the game continues,
you have opportunity to break.
It's one of those. It's one of those things where it's like as the game continues, you can't have a card like that because you could, but it's like you just have to be very now. Like you were saying, Tyler, with them having to balance, it's like you have to constantly be thinking, all right, if Jerry gets this effect, what does the game look like with Jerry having? It's just like that's always has to be.
Yeah, but I think where it keeps or stays balanced is the fact that it only gets it until it dies. Then it loses that ability. So it's like you're only ever getting. It's not like you're like, oh, I can create this abomination of a creature with like all these different effects. Like no, you get the effect of the creature you're fighting. Once you kill that creature, you lose that effect, and the next creature that come out, you copy that now. And it's like I think that's where it stays balanced.
I'll think on it.
Yeah. Let's just think on it. We're moving. We got to move along. All right. I'll talk about
for when Tommy makes this change in the future.
All right, I'll talk.
Start writing these down.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm about to bring up. My bomb. Sack Goat is obviously my card. I think Sack Goat would need a lot of changes, or not a lot.
You're the number one Sack Goat hater, and I don't know why.
I'm not hating Sack Goat. I
agree with
Sack Goat all the time.
I actually love Sack Goat, and I hate that Sack Goat gets so mistreated.
Fucking dog shit.
First,
dog shit. You love that card.
It's a meme. It's like a meme card. It's like I love the artwork. I think it's a very original card. Like just like how it looks, how it functions. I do not like the fact that this creature just gets screwed by so many things. Like first we were talking about how AL12s also aren't very strong. So that just inherently by how Gen 1 was released, it's like I feel like Sack Goat didn't give AL12s much because it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like you get a sack for free. We haven't really seen it much in competitive just because of the nature of the card. It doesn't inherently give you any value when it's played. That's another big thing that, like you said, it's not like it sets up a play or like gives you a board state value. It's more of like a hopefully I hit my big creature and I can play this thing. But again, Giant Rat too, like the fact that Giant Rat exists in the game, if Sacco doesn't have the effect like Giant Rat, I feel like it's like that makes it just not feel very great. It's like I want that legendary.
Yeah, but I don't.
It's different.
It's fine to be
I don't
different.
think. Okay, I don't think it needs the same effect as Giant Rat.
I don't
just
either.
think you need to be able to use its effect from
the hand.
I think
right.
if that was I think if you do that, then it would be literally infinitely better. If I had a sack goat in AL12 and I could just sack the sack goat from my hand, I think that card would be improved like tenfold.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's a small change.
What's just interesting? It's just interesting from the wording of like Giant Rat.
Yeah, how many cards are one shot though?
Okay, but I don't think that's irrelevant. I don't think that's relevant. I think that what is relevant is that
you have to put it on the
because I think but that maybe they don't one shot it, but there's things like Mindset, there's things like Iron Range, there's things like Icy Breath, there's things like Winter Chill, there's things like Blue Dragon. All these things make this card literally worthless. But if you can sack it from your hand, it is so much better. Well, yeah, okay, just when have you ever seen an AL like a sack goat actually be like good? It's hard to say, right?
Well, and
like I think it just suffers a lot.
You live in comp, you know. There's more to the game than just.
All right, you hijack my thing. I agree with Tyler in the sense of, okay, imagine I start my opening hand. I have 5 cards. I play a sack goat. I don't have an AL12 creature. It's like there's a very good chance that like I don't get that AL12 creature. And also with decks like AL12 creatures, it's very hard to justify putting a bunch of AL12s in there to make the consistency of the sack goat feel better. And it's just like I said, for a legendary, it does feel very like, oh no, like I'm almost like 50-50ing if this even like gets me value. And even if it does get me value, let's say I hit the AL12 creature, like we were just bringing up, there's so many things that my opponent can do in response to just almost like get rid of it. Like it sounds silly, but I kind of wish that like Sack Goat almost just gave like whatever it got sacked for heroism, right? Like, wouldn't that be a cool legendary? It's just another way of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it makes them immune
together.
because you sacrifice this, you sacrifice the goat, right? You did the ritual or whatever. Now you just have some crazy creature that like it cannot, like nobody can even like understand it or like deal with it. It's just like it's unstoppable, right? It's like that's the cool thing. Like even if Sack Goat was just like give it more buff or whatever, it's like it would be, you know, it would feel kind of cool.
Pause. Real talk. Having a creature that like pretend we have a Sack Goat or like maybe it's a Giant Rat and it's some future gen, and it's instead of like sacrificing, you just stack whatever card you sacrifice for on top of it, and then it gains heroism.
Yeah. And it can be used for 2 sacks. And it can be used for 2 sacks.
Maybe not 2. What else? Okay, hold on. Maybe not complete heroism, but maybe like the lead boots portion, or maybe the magic protection. I don't know.
So, do you think the concept of that card essentially adds a 31st card into your deck, adds value to it? Because now you don't need to add another sacrificed creature into your deck to bring something larger out. Because you only need to spend 1 card rather than 2 cards to bring something out. So now you can put another magic card that helps you buff the game. Because, you know, that's something that you always struggle with is what magic cards do I put in? There's only so many you can get in there.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like that adds another slot into your deck to help you. So maybe the value of that card really isn't because it can bring out a card like that, but it adds the option to have a 31st card essentially added to your deck without, you know, needing to do it.
Yeah.
So-
And 30 cards is a very hard limit to play with. It's good. It's good deck design.
Oh.
We lost.
We lost Tyler. Hold up. Pause.
Um,
Pause.
but-
Hold up. We'll pause for a
Pause?
second.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know unless he comes back because otherwise the cameras are all. You and Tommy are great, but we'll pause it. We'll do a Tyler pause.
No, you're great.
all right.
I don't know what happened to Tyler. We lost him. Oh no.
I started arguing with him, and he said, "I'm done with this."
Yeah, he said I'm
Yeah,
out.
right.
He said I'm out of here. Oh, he's
There
coming
he
back.
is.
I'm back.
Yeah,
Back for
Right.
more.
he
Back
survived.
in
There
here.
you go.
But
Yeah, right.
regardless, like I said, I don't want to sit on this too long. I think Sack Goat, it's like, again, it just doesn't really feel like it gives that legendary like feel, and I guess that's maybe what I'm missing out of it. Is like I just want that like legendary feel to the card, and it's just like, yeah, like I said, it's okay to have not as great legendaries. I get it. Whatever, Billy, your argument's about to be, I'm sure it's like it's okay to have these.
Let me say my thing because it's
All
too
right.
funny not to say.
Fine,
Not
say
every
your thing.
legendary. Not every legendary needs to be goated.
Yeah.
All right, now continue.
Good joke. All right.
Also, just real quick. Sorry, my camera freaking is broken, so
Sick.
it'll be just gone for the rest of the episode. But that's fun.
It's okay.
Anyways, continue. Oh, one question I wanted to ask Tommy before. Why? I guess I didn't hear if you already said this because I was gone for a minute. But why can't you sack the Sack Goat from your hand to get his ability, but you can do it with Giant Rat? What is there like a wording? I was trying to look up the words, but
Yeah, and so essentially the idea is cards don't have effects in your hand,
yeah,
right? They have effects in the game, right? So once you sacrifice your rat, it's now in game, gains effect, bounces back,
Gotcha.
right?
Right.
But sacrificial goat, you need to be able to play it into the game for it to gain its
yeah.
effect.
But with that,
There's
with
sacrifice requirements and stuff like that are, you know, kind of this weird quasi effect, but that's at least
well, I was gonna say
yeah.
with that wording, if it enters the game when you sacrifice it, wouldn't the goat technically be entering the game when you sacrifice it, just like the rat?
Maybe.
Right? Okay.
I mean,
well,
I think the answer
No,
is that
I think the
that's
card.
what the card says.
Yeah, the card says it must be on
Right?
the field in order to like
Yeah.
have that effect resolved. But I get what Tommy's
I
saying.
don't think it does.
Okay, well.
I will check that.
Whatever, let him check
It
while
says on
Tyler's
the
checking.
field.
While Tyler's checking, we're
Okay.
gonna jump off Sack Goat. We're gonna move over to Tommy. Tommy, what is an underwhelming card in Ward that you think needs some buff?
An underwhelming card that needs a buff. Oh man.
Or just one that you would like to see have a buff. I guess it doesn't have to be like, oh, a bad card. Like you said, maybe it's something you personally want to see get stronger.
You guys are right. That's actually crazy. I've never
Yeah.
seen those 3 words at the end. Yeah, it says while on the field.
Yeah, and
Learn
that's
something
the
new every
real-
day.
Yeah, and that's the reason why it has been ruled the way it has. But to answer your question is
Makes sense.
that I guess that's a gray area of when it's in game, right? When is something in the game? So,
Yeah.
but Harry, to answer your question, I'd say maybe not a specific card, but you know what? No, we're going to go specific. Captain Ward. I think Captain Ward.
Hey.
I think you know.
Let's go.
I think he's a great card.
Cosmic Demon at home.
Yeah, but I think there's other cards that fall in that same category around where he is. You know, a Fire God, right? Fire God has a couple less, you know, damage dice than him,
Right.
but he's got that guaranteed dot, which adds 20 damage, which is a guaranteed. What are we rolling with? 7, 14, 21. We're looking at 6 extra dice guaranteed of damage with 1 hit. So, you know, yeah, I think he's one that could use a buff. I don't know how he'd get a buff, but I think he falls into a category that doesn't see him played a ton compared to other AL12s.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
mean, Ward United's going to help a lot, right?
Yes, and that's kind of the intent of some of those cards like that is Ward United. You know, now any AL12 that hits the field can be fantastic. And so you can play with those cards that maybe they're not the greatest right off the bat, but you're still going to have your cosmic demons that are still going to be inherently better because they start with better stats.
Right.
But you're gonna get, if you want to go theme deck with your Giga and your Captain Wards and stuff like that, you can play your water theme deck. And I'm gonna build a couple of water Eleotoids. I'm gonna stick my my Captain Ward in there. I'm gonna build my water creatures just because I like a theme deck. Right? It'd be like the opposite of a water deck.
Yeah. Tyler's in the mindset of still sacrificing his creatures. He would give you a water creature, and then he would use Spino to beat it. That's Tyler's philosophy with it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I know how to play the game.
No.
I give you this.
But
this is all I give you.
Again, like you said, it's like, just maybe secretly you want to give Captain Ward a bigger buff. But like at the end of the day, even legendaries like Billy says, I mean, he is honestly, in my opinion, kind of right. It's like, you need to have legendaries that some are just better than others.
Yeah,
it's like that.
They're all on the scale.
Right.
Yep.
It's like,
scale, right? You've got your top 3 that are arguable between every single person. My top 3 aren't Billy's top 3, but my bottom 3 of my legendaries probably still aren't the same of what you guys would think. So, it's all a preference thing, and they have to be in there. Otherwise, we go back to our development phase where everything's good, so it means nothing's good and the game's broken.
Yeah, like you said, it's a trading card game. You got to have all levels of everything. And like, hey, man, if I pull a Captain Ward, I'm still happy. If I pulled the first law, yes, I know there's other ones that maybe I'm looking for, but that first law still feels good to pull. You're like, oh yeah. And also, artwork of first law, stellar. I love that whole boulder rolling down the hill and just all that stuff. The gravity. Oh, it's nice. No,
you ever think of what the name of the first law? You ever think of that compared to a boulder? And the
motion stays in motion.
Right, a boulder going down a hill. You start drawing cards. You start doing more damage.
Okay, you guys do a very good job with the thematics of things. I will give you that. I'm very impressed a lot of times when I'm thinking.
We like to throw little Easter eggs in there that aren't like necessarily obvious, and just start see if someone.
I remember the first time Harry seen Magic Artillery. He really hated it, and then he's like, I'm gonna ask them why they made this dang card. Like, I just don't. Why would you make this card? And then we got there, and whoever answered, I think it was Joe. He's like, oh, because gnomes, when they build stuff, it doesn't work. They're not the best at building. It's like, that makes so much sense. It's that makes so much sense.
Yeah, ever since then, I feel like
they'd be better.
Ever since then, I feel like I've literally just always been thinking of the thematic of cards too, and I will say, you guys definitely put a lot of thought in, and I love it. I guess
throw one more meme in there. It's just like Harry's just like, I understand it now,
Yeah. No, but speaking of themes, I think this will be a good touching point. I think there was something, Tommy, you wanted to present to everybody, and hopefully we can get it to work. Right? Is that something?
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So here I got this for everyone. It might just be
here's stream. This is I guess the theme song for Ward. So here it is.
CG Ward, the fantasy Ward, your fantasy.
Tommy's really getting into it with that. Like you said, it covered everything.
Yeah, definitely like that.
definitely on the thing. I'll have a big image and I'll try to put a bunch of Ward stuff going on while we're jamming out to it. So perfect.
Perfect.
Nah, dude, I love it. We needed a theme song
Yeah.
and that encapsulated it all in my opinion. So thank you, Tommy. That was awesome.
Now you got some music to play with the ads now too. You could throw that on there.
Right. Turn that
Oh,
up to
that's
12.
sick. Oh yeah, definitely gonna have those lyrics memorized by Ward Bowl. You know.
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we're all
Right.
singing it. You better have it blaring through some speakers or something at the tournament. That'll definitely be
Oh
pretty
yeah.
good.
We'll get everyone singing along to it.
But
Yeah.
close.
On our trip down to Lexington, we'll be blaring it the whole way.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but speaking of tournaments, I do want to talk about as we kind of wrap up here, things that we're looking forward to. I mean, obviously we don't have to just talk about tournaments, but as a competitive player, I'm more tournament focused. Maybe Tommy wants to give us some of the things he's looking forward to in Ward. Real quick, I just want to cover. There is a tournament coming up April 7th, so this weekend, and it's at Globe. Yeah.
April 27th.
Or sorry, what did I say? 17th. Sorry, 27th. Thank
No,
you
you
for
said 7th.
Okay, April 27th. It'll be up on the screen too, but it's the Queen's Challenge tournament for Globe News. Again, another tournament that we're getting in before the final tournament. I'm pretty sure it's Swiss best of threes, so we'll be playing best of three there. But yeah, if you can.
No, it's not best of 3. It's like a Swiss format. So we're just gonna have like 3 games. Probably be a 4th one if you're at the top. That'll be like the final game. Will be the 4th one.
There we go.
But registration's at 11. Tournament begins at noon. I'm not sure if any of the ward staff plans on making it. It was a little bit of a short notice, but
A couple of them are going to go. I won't be there, but
Cool.
they're going to be they're going to be participating in the tournament. Since
yeah.
Globe
cool.
News is hosting it, it is an official tournament, and there'll be a few Ward staff members that are just participating because they want to play.
cool.
No, but
And
if you can make
the
it out
next
there,
tournament, Harry.
well, real quick, if you can make it out there, make it out there. Me and Tyler will definitely be there. Like I said,
And
not
Chris.
everybody. Yes, they're hopefully we can get a good showing for that. But yeah, going forward, there's also the Untapped tournament. I'm sure you guys are excited about this. Again, I'm really excited. I'm a little curious to see how a whole like week tournament like plays out, like how having be multi-dayed. Definitely the first time. So I will be, signing up for it. We'll see how well it works with schedules. I know, people do have lives outside of it, so I'm hoping that it all can run smoothly and everybody will be good to go through it. What's kind of your guys' thoughts on the tournament? How did we come to the decision of like let's try the week, a full week of tournament, I guess.
Yeah, the idea was to almost make it as a weekday because people do stuff on weekends, right? We're coming into the nice winter or summer months here, especially up in Minnesota, where everyone gets out and actually starts doing stuff again. And so weekends tend to be a lot more busy and full. People vacationing and all that stuff. So we figured, well, during the weekday, people have to work, but at the evening, if you only have an hour or two, you can sit down, play a game of Ward, maybe 2 rounds if you can really get to it. And maybe make it more accessible for people. It doesn't make it more accessible for everybody, but I think the large majority of people will have 1 spare hour a night for
Right.
5 nights.
Well, and
right?
again, I think just something to also, again, it's like this is a global thing. So it's like people, if you're watching and you're not, in the local area, definitely make sure that you try to hit these tournaments. Because like you said, if you're really itching to try to get some like competitive play in tournaments, I think these are like the Ward team, I feel like is doing the utmost best they can, trying to get everybody who is in the Ward scene involved. And so it's like things like these, I'm always glad to see exist for even people that aren't able to come to the live events right now, as since they're not able to branch out all over the United States. So I personally really do like these tournaments.
Yeah, plus if you're playing with your local group and there's a couple of you and you feel like you're just beating up on your friends all the time and you're like, I want to see how I like stack up against like we'll call it the global competition, like people from around the different regions. Like this is a great opportunity. You might learn something. You might be able to teach something to someone. So
no, for sure. And then so those are the tournaments we got coming up. Like I said, closing thoughts.
There's
we actually have another one.
there's actually.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was just about to shut that one out. So they actually just announced it the other day. This is It's going to be the last tournament before the Ward Bowl. So there is a couple more tournaments before the Ward Bowl. So if you're trying to make it into the War and Honor, or change your rankings, those will be the times. This is going to be in Lexington. So down in the cities, it's going to be at the Curious Crow, and it's going to be on May 18th, and it starts at 2 p.m. Central Time. So, like I said, that'll be the last tournament. It's going to be a build your own deck. There's going to be prizes available, I would be guessing, to the top 3. And yeah, like I said, the last tournament. So if you can make it to any of those 3, those will all be official ranking, tournaments, and you'll be able to add your records to the leaderboard. So yeah, if you plan on trying to make it into the Ward Bowl, those are your chances.
Thank you, Tyler, for catching that. Yeah, like you said, so there's 3 more tournaments before the Ward Bowl. If, like Tyler was saying, if you're really wanting to get into that Ward Bowl, and like he said, there's still a chance. If you perform well at these last 3 tournaments, I mean, hey man, anyone kind of can qualify. I know Billy said something in the Discord too of like, it only takes a couple wins to really push people over into that bracket. So if it gets pretty competitive, you might have a chance there. But what's that, Billy?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. I think if I look at it, if you think of War, top 10, and then War and Honor, that's like the top 20, 21 to like 26 or 27, they're all 1 win from making it into the War and Honor. Mm-hmm. So there's could be a lot of movement these next couple weeks. So.
Yeah, and a big thing to say about that too is even if your name isn't on that list that we post all the time, and you're like, you know what, I've got a couple wins, I'm just below that person that's in that 20 or 19th place, still register, because if somebody from the top 10 or War and Honor don't register, they're going to get bumped out, and then the next person on that list gets bumped onto the War and Honor then and get an invite. So
yeah,
the goal
I'm guessing your guys' goal is to have the 20 spots for sure be there.
Yep, exactly. Right. Filling that out. So those 21, 22, 23 people on there, which there's a ton of people that are tied on there. We are keeping rankings of everybody that's ever played in a tournament in an official way. Joe's got a massive spreadsheet that he keeps together, and you can easily get on there. So like Billy said, most people are 1 win away from jumping in there and bumping someone out. So go ahead and register and get to those tournaments.
No, and like I said, we covered tournaments pretty well. Obviously, like I said, I'm very tournament focused. But is there other things, final thoughts that you guys have just going forward for Ward, things that you're expecting? I'm sure, Tommy, you might have a little bit to talk about as what your kind of like view is on the future. If we just want to like go around, Billy, is there anything for you that maybe like you're also looking forward to, or is it, that you want to talk about?
I'll just give a quick shout out to the boss decks. I think it's gonna be a big hit. I think it's gonna be a big plus and add a lot of different style of gameplay, plus a new vertical to the game. I play the game a lot and I hyperfixate on it because it's fun, and so that's just gonna add another way to have fun.
Ooh. Anything from you, Tyler? Any final thoughts that you got going forward with Ward?
I'm just really excited for the upcoming tournaments. Super excited for the Ward Bowl. Super excited to play my deck in the Ward Bowl. Super excited to see all the different decks in the Ward Bowl. I don't know. I love the competitions, and it's something that I mean, when you have something coming up on the weekend, it's something that you just think about, all week leading up to it. So, I don't know. Love competition. Love going to hang out with people. Hell yeah.
Nice. How about for you, Tommy? What's on the horizon for you? Maybe this might be a little bit of a big question, but we're all, of course, kind of curious. What's the thought going forward?
Yeah, there's always what's on the horizon for us in Ward is launching these boss battles is kind of a big thing. Everything's kind of set, and we're just kind of waiting to push it out to the public here. Super excited to see all that happen. A lot of time and effort from our staff has gone into that, and also the community with play testing and prototyping and all that stuff. So that's kind of where we're all excited to see how that goes, and also nervous, right? Because it's it's hundreds of hours of development and labor putting into something, and you hate to see it hit the market, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong. You're like, shoot.
I mean, have you guys seen decent pre-orders? I mean, you obviously don't have to say too much, but pretty. I mean, does it feel like a pretty, positive experience? Like you're not too. Obviously, it's going to be stressful regardless. But you're not too worried about its success? Like you're seeing quite a bit of success already.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of new people. A lot of people
Cool.
that are getting into it just because they didn't have someone to play with. And this is one of the reasons that we developed it in the beginning, is not for, honestly, I don't want to say this, but not for you guys, because you guys have people to play with. But we made it for the people that don't have someone to play with. You've got the Mage Hammer out there that he tends to play by himself. And you can't really play Ward by yourself. You can, but it's hard to do.
Right.
But this is for those people to fight themselves. And then you get the Chrono Dragons and the Varen Eternals hard mode and Nightmare mode. That's more for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we appreciate that. It's super great idea.
Yeah. So we're super excited about that. We're now that that's kind of on launch, we're really starting to then jump into Gen 3 development, starting to play test soon. We've got convention season that's kind of coming up here, starting in June, beginning with like TeamCon. Excalibur Con.
Hey, they just changed it. I don't blame you. We still call it TeamCon all the time too.
Yeah. So we got kind of the new year starting up with that, and kind of hitting a bunch of different conventions all over. We were out at the Gamma Expo in February, made a lot of good connections and talked to a lot of fun and interesting people from around the country there, trying to bring Ward to a wider audience. We are in a few different new distributors. We had our original one, Southern Hobby, but now we're with XYAB, and we're on pre-order with GTS distribution right now. So bringing that to more local GameStop stores. And that's Harry. That's kind of what you were saying earlier, or Tyler. Sorry, that was you. All these new stores. So between essentially Marty, Joe, and John, and now these distributors, we're seeing a lot of new stores, so people don't have to order from us, so they can just walk into their shop and buy it, same day.
Cool. I actually just I had one more. Selfishly, I just wanted to ask this question. Though obviously we have the Ward Bowl coming up June 7th. Is there any plans for the new competitive season after that? Will it start? I mean, I kind of had heard rumors that the start of that season could be potentially at that Excalibur Con. So I guess I was just curious on what the plans are, if there's
So, and I know Joe has more of an idea on this, but I believe, don't quote me exactly for now, but everyone's going to.
Oh,
but
sure.
I believe the plan right now is to do a pack crack tournament to begin the season again. Something along the lines of like Excalibur Con, kind of like it was last year.
I like the tradition.
Ending with the Ward Bowl and then beginning at that convention, kind of as a yearly thing. So
nice.
Cool.
There'll be a lot more information that comes out about that, especially as we get closer to the Ward Bowl and more information about the Ward Bowls coming out. We'll start releasing information about, season 3. When does that start? When does season 2 officially end? All that kind of stuff that goes with it.
No, for sure. Well, I think we picked your brain enough, Tommy. Again, I want to make sure, I'm sure everybody else agrees here. We're so thankful to have your time. You giving us this time, you giving us our platform to talk about this. I mean, as episode 10, we were very excited to be like, here, we have something special for everyone. And I hope everyone who is watching the live stream, if that's still even working, or just, who will watch this video. Perfect.
Marty's in there.
All right. But like you said, we really do thank you, and everybody I think always loves to get a piece of that, the Ward staff and you guys, and just see how your progression's going. I mean, it's honestly truly just we're all glad that we're a part of this. And like you said, with WWB, we're hoping to stay with it. Just keep it going. Just keep giving you guys something to talk about. Give everyone something to talk about. Give it a platform for all of you. Eventually get everybody on here, all the ward staff. I'm sure they all have interesting, stories to tell and their own view on how everything started. So I think it's good. But thank you so much, Tommy, for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
anytime.
definitely appreciate it a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. And with that, episode 10, we're going to get out of here, guys. Everyone, have a great night.
Oh, see you.
Peace.